Two of the biggest challenges facing motor manufacturers when designing new cars are to come up with vehicles with a distinctive, unique identity and to produce cars with multiple roles and a sense of versatility. Now, on the identity front, of course, the trend has been to go back to those old classic retro designs. Think of the Mini, think of the Fiat 500. And in terms of versatility, the mere fact that we have so many crossovers and MPVs on our roads shows you just how big that trend has become. But what happens if you mix trendy and versatility in a single package? Meet the Fiat 500L.
As that designation implies, the 500L is a bigger 500, and yes, the L is an abbreviation for large, that is, by Fiat 500 standards. While the little 500 is a mini hatch, the 500L assumes a somewhat bigger and more spacious role. Our test car is the 1.6-litre turbo diesel, which is also the flagship of the range.
The little Fiat 500 is all about cute retro style. The Fiat 500L, however, is about form-following functionality. And because the emphasis is on space and versatility, it loses much of its retro appeal. In fact, it has about as much style as a bread bin and as much retro appeal as a workshop manual.
It's not that the 500L is ugly, but more a case of it being handicapped by its visual association with a small 500 mini hatch. While its tiny sibling succeeds in exuding a certain quirky charm, the 500L's expanded form factor and its understandable focus on functionality dilute the design's retro theme. The result is odd rather than charming.
Powering this flagship version of the Fiat 500L is a 1.6-litre multijet turbo diesel engine producing 77 kilowatts of maximum power and a very impressive 320 newton meters of torque. Drive as per usual to the front wheels via a 6-speed manual gearbox.
The not-so-little 500L tips the scales at a surprisingly porky 1,365 kilograms, which translates into a power-to-weight ratio of just 56 kilowatt per tonne. However, would-be buyers of the 500L may well be more interested in the Fiat's cabin configuration than its dynamic appeal.
The real highlight of the Fiat 500L is the cabin. It's almost impossibly roomy for a car that measures only 4.15 meters long and 1.78 meters wide. And the secret of this space is this very tall roof and the big glass panel, which gives a really airy, almost lofty feeling to the interior. It's also a very versatile space. The seats can move front and back, not only here in front, but also the split rear bench seat. And you have a whole number of combinations of cargo and seating capacity. And because, of course, this is the flagship model, it has absolutely every bell and whistle as well.
A multifunction steering wheel, a full-color touchscreen display, dual-zone climate control and electric everything are among the highlights, as are auto-activating headlights and windscreen wipers. The seats are plush, the ergonomics intuitive and the overall execution impressive. And yes, of course, there's a lot of space for both passengers and luggage, while the cargo area is easily extended from 343 to an impressive 1,310 litres when required.
The Fiat 500L might be based on the little 500, but it certainly doesn't feel as nippy or as agile. And part of the reason, of course, is it's a lot bigger and a lot heavier, weighing in at 1,365 kilograms. That said, it still feels very composed and friendly around town and on the open road. And there's plenty of performance too from that 1600 turbo diesel engine. The 0 to 100 time, a quite respectable 11.3 seconds. The top speed over 180 kilometers an hour, which shows it cruises really well as well. On the fuel consumption front, though, this car in our test about 7.3 litres per 100 kilometers, which is a lot more than the claimed 4.5 litres per 100 kilometers, which Fiat says this car does in the combined cycle.
The gearing is almost too short at first, making it easy to chirp the tyres off the line when the boost kicks in, while 6th is tall enough for overdrive status, but means 5th is more often preferable, especially with a load on board.
Perhaps Fiat shouldn't have badged this little MPV a 500L, because the 500 nomenclature really creates an expectation of style and retro appeal that it struggles to meet. If it had been given a more contemporary, perhaps a more dashing exterior, it would have been a much more convincing car, because underneath that skin is a lot of versatility, a lot of space, and in fact, a lot of appeal. But as it stands, this car suffers because of its 500 DNA.
A willing turbo diesel with good mid-range punch and a spacious and well-appointed cabin that's also practical and versatile are the 500L's undisputed plus points. In fact, it offers much of what you'd expect of a mini MPV, but Fiat's attempt to extend the 500's retro theme doesn't convince. This car deserves a personality of its own.